Today we are going to discuss the process of rationalization. As the word suggests, process of rationalization is making some numbers which are not rational into rational numbers. So first we need to know what rational numbers are, and I've written this ratio of integers. Ratio of integers, it means that you can write, let's say we have 4 over 3. We are taking the ratio of the two numbers. Similarly, 5 over negative 6, 10 over 3, 5. 5 is also a rational number because if no other number is dividing, then clearly 1 is dividing that. So 5 was also considered as a rational number. Perfect square roots or perfect roots, let's say if it is a square root and you're taking the square root of that number, again that is a positive 2 or a negative 2, so that is a perfect square root and hence it is also a rational number. Another example would be cube root of 64, which is 4. So again, this is also a rational number. So in general, when we define the rational numbers, the set of rational numbers is denoted by the letter Q, and this is how it is written in the set builder notation. It is read as all x such that x equals p over q, where p and q are members of or belong to set of integers, and q is not equal to 0. If q is 0, 0 in the denominator will give you a math error or undefined answer. This set of integers z is the set of all those numbers which are complete, like 0, positive negative 1, positive negative 2. So they are complete numbers along with negatives and a 0. On the contrary, if these are rationals, the opposite of that would be irrationals. For example, let's take the square root of 2 or square root of 5. They will be irrational numbers, and in set builder notation they will be written as q with a prime, and this dash is called prime. Same statement as above here. We write x such that x is not equal. That's the only difference between rationals and irrational in the set builder notation, that rationals can be written as p over q form and irrationals cannot be written as p over q form. So this is pq belonging to set of integers, q is not equal to 0, all the other conditions are the same except for they cannot be written as p over q form. Now this is quite a difficult task to identify. This is one way of identifying that those roots which are not perfect roots, they are going to make irrational numbers. Now how do we determine, let's say we have a 751, would that be a rational number or an irrational number? Only if we know that 751 is a perfect square, then we can say decide whether 751 square root is an irrational number or a rational number. And this would be even difficult for us if we have a very huge number, let's say 108923. Would this be a rational number or an irrational number? Since we don't know whether this number is a perfect square because we are taking the square root. So if it is a perfect square or not, if it is a perfect square, only then we can say that this is a rational number. If it is not a perfect square, then it will be an irrational number. So let's discuss an easier way of identifying whether a number is rational or irrational. So here we have types of decimals. So there are basically two types of decimals: the ones which are recurring and the ones which are terminating. The opposite of recurring is non-recurring. So what does recur mean? As I used to tell my students, that recur means reoccur. Reoccur. It means repeated or coming again and again. So 3.333, you can see that there is a pattern, and that pattern is of a single digit here. The single digit is repeated after the decimal. If that's the case, then this will be a rational number. We can write it in the short form like 3.3 dot. This dot means that this number 3 is repeated after the decimal. Similarly, 36, 36, 36. So in this case, instead of a single number, we have a set of numbers that is repeated, and you can write it in short as 0.36 and dot on both of them. So these are the recurring decimals, means they are showing a pattern after the decimal, and the opposite of that would be non-recurring. Non-recurring means there is no pattern, there is no value or set of values that is being repeated. You can see that it's just coming randomly 7 1 8 2 8 1 8 2 9 and so on. There is no pattern after the decimal, hence this is non-recurring. The next is terminating. Terminating means coming to an end. Terminating or ending. So if the number is ending like 4.25 or 0.65 or 0.125, all these numbers are ending, these decimals are ending, hence they will be called as terminating numbers. But sometimes the numbers just don't end, and the maximum number of digits or decimal digits that you see in your calculator is 9, but the number goes beyond that 9 digits that you see. For example, 3.33333333, it goes on and on and on. It's not ending anywhere. And you can get this number 3.33 by dividing 10 by 3. So you know what's happening. It's 3.333. The value after the decimal is just not ending. Hence, this is a non-terminating decimal. Similarly, for this value that I use above, 2.718281829, and it just goes on and on and on. There is no pattern as well as it is not ending. And again, this is the same example that I used here. So there are basically four types, and two major types are recurring and terminating. The opposite of recurring is non-recurring. The opposite of terminating is non-terminating. Okay, so looking at the decimals, how can you decide whether a number is rational or not? Remember, if a number is recurring, if it's showing a pattern, it's a rational number. And you can see that 3.33 can be written as 10 over 3, which is a rational number. Hence, recurring is rational. If the number is terminating, 4.25, this is again a decimal number. This is 425 over 100. This is terminating, and you can convert it into a fraction form. So this is also a rational number. If it is not terminating, for example 3.33333, it's not terminating, it's again 10 over 3. So you can write it as a fraction. Hence, this is again a rational number. But if a number is non-recurring and non-terminating, in short, if the two nons are together in one number, the two nons are non-terminating and non-recurring. If the number is not recurring, not terminating, then this is irrational. Okay, so let's take a look at this table. We have some values. Clearly, this is terminating. So I'll put a tick mark here. If it is terminating, we know for sure that this is a rational number. If it is terminating, we will say that it is already decided that this is a rational number. Okay, if the number is 3.333, it's clearly non-terminating. So it's not terminating, but it's recurring. So we will still consider it as a rational number. But for this number, There is no pattern after the decimal, and it's not ending either. So it's non-terminating and it's non-recurring. So when the two nons are combined together, this will be an irrational number. So guys, this is another way of sorting out that whenever you have terminating, it's defined to be a rational number. If it's not terminating, then it should be recurring to be a rational number. But if it is not terminating and non-recurring, then it's an irrational number. All right, so let's identify some rational numbers and irrational numbers. And the hint is you convert them to decimal form. So first of all, I'll convert 5 over 8 into a decimal. If you can do it manually, very good. But for these questions, you might need the calculator. So let's see what is 5 over 8. 5 divided by 8 is 0.625. So I'll write it here. 0.625. 10 divided by 3 is already done in the example, so that's 3.3, and it goes on and on and on. 22 over 7. 22 divided by 7, and that is 3.14285, 7143, and it goes on and on, and we can clearly see that it's not going any pattern and it's not going to end. Square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 8. Let's see what square root of 8 is. So square root of 8 is 2.828427125. So square root of 8 is 2.828427125. And again, we don't see a pattern, and this number would go on and on and on. Cube root of 8 is 2. As you can clearly see that 0.625 is stopping, it's terminating, hence it's a rational number. 3.33, it's not stopping, but it is going to be repeated after the decimal, hence it's a rational number again. 22 over 7, 3.142857143, and there's no pattern and it doesn't end, hence it is a rational number. 2 is 2 over 1 and it's an irrational number. 2 is 2 over 1, and so it is a rational number. Square root of 8 is 2.82847125. It doesn't end, so it's an irrational number. Cube root of 8 is single 2. 2 is written as 2 over 1, and hence this is a rational number as well. So guys, this is how you identify rationals and irrationals using the decimal form, and that's possibly the best way for you at this stage. Okay, so there are some famous irrational numbers that we already know. One of them is pi. You might have heard. You already know. One of them is pi. You might have heard about it. It's not the pie that we eat. It's pi that is represented by the Greek letter. So this is a famous irrational number. People have calculated pi to over a quadrillion decimal places. How many zeros are there in a quadrillion decimal places? A quadrillion is 15 zeros. It has 15 zeros. Imagine how much rich we would be if we have a quadrillion in your pocket. All right, so pi is being calculated to over a quadrillion decimal places. That's a huge lot of decimal places, and still there is no pattern. And this makes pi as a rational number. You can see the decimals, there are no repetition if we go and extend up to quadrillion decimal places. Another famous irrational number is the Euler's number, represented by this letter E. Its value is 2.71828182845 and so on. There is no pattern, so it's non-terminating and non-recurring, and hence an irrational number. People have also calculated E to lots of decimal places without any pattern, showing that it is an irrational number. Then we have another important irrational number that is called the golden ratio, and I'll try to make another video on golden ratio and some associated concepts with that, one of them being the Fibonacci sequence. Anyways, so golden ratio is also an irrational number, and Golden ratio has its value 1.61803398887 and so on. And it doesn't end and it doesn't repeat after the decimal. So many square roots, cube roots, etc. are also irrational numbers. For example, square root of 3 is all of these values, no repetition, no pattern, no ending. So non-recurring and non-terminating. Square root of 99 is 9 point all of these values, no repetition after the decimal, no ending after the decimal. Hence, this is also an irrational number. Now, there's a story of Hippasus, which was one of the students of Pythagoras. Apparently, Hippasus discovered irrational numbers when he was trying to write the square root of 2 as a fraction, and he was using geometry as it is thought to be, and he was not able to do it, and instead he proved the square root of 2 could not be written as a fraction, and so it is irrational. He stated square root of 2 is irrational number. But sadly, the followers of Pythagoras could not accept the existence of irrational numbers. At that time, irrational numbers were not discovered. They were either rational numbers or they don't exist. So at that time, the followers of Pythagoras did not accept this existence of irrational numbers, and it is said that Hippasus was drowned at sea as a punishment from the gods. So poor Hippasus, he discovered irrational numbers, and he stated that square root of 2 is an irrational number, yet he was punished to that.
In the 6th century BC, the famous mathematician Pythagoras opened a school of math and learning, dedicated to the philosophy that every quantity can be expressed as a ratio of two whole numbers.
Hey Flavius, come over here for a minute.
What is it?
I think I found an irrational number.
Impossible, you know every number is rational. Let's check your work, I'm sure you just made a mistake.
Well, I was looking at a square of side length 1. I was trying to figure out the diagonal length here.
That's easy. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. It's the square root of 2.
But check this out. If the square root of 2 is rational, it equals some fraction a over b in lowest terms.
Well, obviously. That's our entire philosophy.
Then watch and tell me where I'm messing up. So I squared both sides and multiplied by b squared. Since 2 divides a squared is even, and thus a is even.
Makes sense. So what?
So let's call a 2p. I squared both sides again, multiplied by b squared again, and divided by 2. So b squared is even, and b is even, so b equals 2q.
Still makes sense. So what?
So a over b equals 2p over 2q, and it isn't in lowest terms like we said it was. And if I didn't make any mistakes, square root of 2 must be irrational. What's happening? I mean, this is impossible, isn't it? Isn't it?
Let's go fishing.
Good idea.
Okay.
Thank goodness. Imagine what would happen if Pythagoras heard about this.
Okay, the above information that I told you about irrational numbers is taken from Maths is Fun, and there are further information that I've taken from these links. If you want to visit them, please go ahead. Let's say if you multiply two irrational numbers, let's say pi times pi. Pi times pi is pi squared, and if you see the value of pi squared, let's see the value of pi on the calculator. So pi times pi, you can see that we are multiplying the pi or squaring the pi. We get 9.869604401. It's still an irrational number. It doesn't repeat after the decimal, and definitely there will be more decimal places after that. So it's an irrational number still. But there is another scenario. If you take the square of square root of 2, like you multiply square root of 2 by itself. So you see that square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2. And if it is 2, then it's a rational number. So what we observe is sometimes when two irrationals are multiplied, their answer is again an irrational. And sometimes when two irrationals are multiplied, their answer is a rational number. And this is the starting point of our topic actually, which is called the rationalization. Before we go on to rationalization, let's see what surds are. So when we can't simplify a number to remove the square root or cube root, etc., then it is a surd. For example, square root 2, you can't do anything to simplify it and get rid of the square root sign. It is still as this. As a decimal, it is 1.4142135. So is it a surd? Yes, it is a surd. It's an irrational number. It doesn't repeat, it doesn't end. Similarly, square root of 3 is a surd, but square root of 4, you can get rid of the square root sign here. And so this is 2, and hence it is not a surd. It's not an irrational number. Similarly, square root of 1/4, square root of 1/4 is 1/2, and 1/2 is a fraction. In decimal form, it's a terminating decimal, and so it's again not a surd. Then cube root of 11 is a surd because its decimal value is clearly indicating non-terminating and non-recurring, whereas cube root of 27 is a single number 3, which is a rational number, hence not a surd. So we see that if we are successful in removing the sign of the square root, then that number is not a surd. If we cannot remove this root sign, the square root or the cube root or any other root, then it's a surd. There is another important clarification that we need to make, that surds used to be another name of irrationals, but it's not the case. It is now used for a root that is irrational. Okay, another definition that we need to have in our pocket is that what a quadratic surd is. So surd is not a single irrational number or a root. Surd can be a combination of a rational number and an irrational number. So when you combine a rational and an irrational or two irrationals, then you get. So when you combine a rational and an irrational number by addition or subtraction, you get a quadratic surd. For example, this is also a quadratic surd where you have square root of 4 plus square root of 3. Obviously, square root of 4 is a positive value of 2. So again, this is 2 plus root of 3. And so this is a quadratic surd as well. But nevertheless, we can have both of them as uh, two square roots. For example, let's take another example. Square root of 2 plus square root of 5. That's also a quadratic surd. So basically, quadratic surd means a collection of two irrational numbers or a rational and an irrational number. Before we move on, let's just revise this important result. If you are multiplying the sum and difference of two values, this is the sum and this is the difference. If you multiply the sum and difference of two values, you get difference of their squares, and that's an identity. So the sum and difference of two values multiplied, we get difference of their squares. Another definition that we have is conjugate surd. Now what is a conjugate surd? For example, we have this original surd. The conjugate surd can be easily obtained by reversing the sign in the middle. So we take 5 and root of 4 and just reverse the sign, and that's a conjugate surd. Similarly, if we have this, we take these two terms as it is, but reverse the sign in the middle. So we have root of 4 minus root of 3. What the concept of conjugate surd is, let's say we have 5 minus square root of 3, and this is our original surd. Now we want to find a surd which, when multiplied to this original one, give us a rational number. So the concept of conjugate surd is that surd which, when multiplied to the original one, gives us a rational number. Finding the conjugate surd is very easy. Let's say we have this original surd 5 minus under root of 3, and you want to find another surd so that when these two multiplied we get a rational number. That is called the conjugate surd. To find the conjugate surd, you take the same numbers, square 5 and square root of 3, and this time you simply reverse the sign in the middle. That's the only change that you need to make. So this will be a positive sign. And look at the identity above. It's a plus b and then a minus b. Similarly, we have 5 minus under root 3 and then 5 plus under root 3. We have the product of their sum and difference. And if that's the scenario, if you get it into this structure, you can write it as the difference of their square. So I'll take the square of 5 and I'll take the square of root of 3 and then subtract them. As you know that square and square root are the reciprocal powers, so they cancel out. Square root of 5 is 25. Square root of 5 is 25. So that's 25 minus 3, that is 22. You can see that we identified such a surd, this surd, that when we multiply it with the original one, our answer is a rational number, and hence we call it the rationalization method. Rationalization is a process of eliminating radicals or imaginary numbers from the denominator of an algebraic fraction. For example, this is our fraction. It has radical signs in the denominator, or we can say it has a surd in the denominator. We want to make it into a rational number. This denominator has to be turned into a rational number, and that process is called rationalization. Now, how do you do it? You find out the conjugate surd. So if this is the conjugate, if this is the original surd, its conjugate surd will be simply 1 plus root of 3. This is obtained by changing the sign in the middle. 1 plus under root 3, and you multiply and divide by this 1 plus under root 3. Now when you simplify this numerator 1 and this numerator, multiply together and we have 1 plus under root 3 in the numerator, and then 1 minus under root 3 and 1 plus under root 3. That's the same identity that I'm going to use. A plus b times a minus b, and your answer is a squared minus b squared, the difference of two squares. So here we have 1 minus under root 3 and 1 plus under root 3, so I'll write 1 squared minus under root 3 squared, and so this square and square root are reciprocal powers, cancel out. We have 1 plus under root 3 over 1 minus 3. So you can write 1 plus under root 3 over negative 2, and that's all. You have gotten rid of an irrational number or a surd from this denominator, and hence this process is called rationalization. If you want to further specify it, you can say that this is rationalizing the denominator. Let's take a few more examples, and after the practice of these examples, our video will be concluded. All right, this is our example 1. We have 5 over 3 minus root of 2. So first of all, we identify the conjugate surd of this denominator, and then we will multiply and divide by that. So the conjugate surd of the denominator is 3 plus under root 2, and you multiply by the same and divide by the same. So you multiply and divide by the conjugate surd of this denominator. You multiply the numerator, so 5 times this bracket. I'll use the brackets just for the sake of it, so that we know we don't mix up. So this is 5 times 3 plus under root 2. In the denominator, it's the same situation, a minus b and then a plus b. So I'll write it directly here, a squared minus b squared. The first term squared minus the second term squared. It's up to you if you want to leave it as it is, or you can multiply in size. So 5 times 3 is 15, and then 5 times root of 2. It's like this, and then 3 minus square root of 2 squared is 2, and this is what we are left with, 15 plus 5 over root of 2 divided by 1, and we don't show the 1, and hence we have made this denominator equal to a rational number, and our rationalization is complete. That's our final answer for the first example of rationalization. All right, quickly, let's find out the conjugate surd of this denominator. That will be root of 7 minus 2, and you multiply and divide by the same. You multiply these in the numerator. Be careful with using the brackets. Brackets are a better option to use instead of doing it directly. And then this is a plus b, a minus b situation, so I use the identity. This is the first term squared minus second term squared. Up in the numerator, it's up to you if you want to multiply or not. I'll multiply and I'll express it like this: square root of 21 minus 2 times root of 3. If you're wondering how this comes up, you can watch my video on indices. So square and square root cancel out. We have 7, square root of 2 is 4, and there we are. Root of 21 minus 2 times root of 3 divided by 3, and that's your answer. Let's say if I hadn't multiplied this square root of 3 inside this bracket, and I'll leave it as it is, square root of 3 and then square root of 7 minus 2, and beneath we have square root of 7 squared, which is 7, and 2 squared, which is 4, and their difference is 3. Be careful to not be tempted to combine these two bases. If you combine these two bases, you will have square root of 3 divided by 3, and that would result in square root of 7 minus 2 over root of 3. Our purpose of rationalization is getting rid of these incomplete squares. Root of 3 is definitely an irrational number, and our job won't be done. So this is not our answer. We want our answer to have a rational power, a rational denominator. Hence, this is not our answer. This is the preferred answer. So in example 3, we have square root of 3 plus 2. So basically what these examples are based on is your ability to manipulate the numerator. You see the numerators are getting a bit more difficult to handle. Otherwise, it's the same procedure going on with the denominator. Again, we will identify the conjugate surd of the denominator and multiply and divide by that. So here we have root of 3 plus 1, and you multiply and divide by that. And now you simplify. So it's root of 3 plus 2 times root of 3 plus 1, and divided by a minus b times a plus b would give you this difference of their squares form. So it's root of 3 squared minus 1 squared. You might want to simplify that. That's your choice. The square and square root of 3 cancel out, and root of 3 plus 2 and root of 3 plus 1 divided by 3 minus 1, which is 2. Our job is done, and if you want to simplify your answers, I can give you the simplified form as well, but this answer is acceptable. Now I'm going to simplify this just for the sake of any expansion that may be left behind. Okay, so we multiply these two, we get 3 plus under root 3, and then for 2 we have 2 times root of 3 plus 2 over 2. So we combine 3 and 2, we get 5, 1 root of 3 and then 2 root of 3, so it's 3 root of 3's divided by 2. That's also the same answer. So both answers are acceptable because you have shown that the denominator is a rational number. Lastly, we have our example 4, and example 4 has again a surd in the numerator and surd in the denominator. Our focus is on the surd in the denominator. We'll find its conjugate surd, and you know how to find the conjugate surd. It's quite easy. Simply change the sign in the middle. So this is 1 minus root of 3. You multiply and divide by this conjugate surd, and when you simplify, I'll keep the brackets very carefully. So this is 1 minus under root 3 times 1 minus under root 3. So I can write it as 1 minus under root 3 whole squared. And in the denominator we have 1 plus root of 3 times 1 minus root of 3. That's the difference of two squares expansion. So I'll write it as 1 squared minus root of 3 squared. Okay, when you simplify them, you get, I'm going to use the identity here just for the sake of practice. If it is a minus b whole squared, as I already revised this identity with you, a plus minus b whole squared, when expanded we get a squared plus b squared plus minus 2ab. If it is plus, then it's positive 2ab. If it is negative, then we get negative 2ab. In this case, that's the case for negative here. That's 1 squared plus root of 3 squared minus, for the formula, 2 times 1 times root of 3. And all of this is divided by this. We can simplify that, and square and square root cancel out. We have 3 here, 1 minus 3, which is negative 2. So that's again another cancellation here. We have 1 plus 3 minus 2 times root of 3 divided by negative 2. Or we can say that this is 4 minus 2 times root of 3 over negative 2. Now it's basically algebraic manipulation or manipulation with the signs here. I see that 2 is a common factor both in the numerator and denominator. And I want to write my answer in the simplest form. Whenever it's a fractional answer, you have to write it into the simplest form here. No more cancellation possible. So I see that 2 is a common factor here. Let's take out 2 from here. You will be left with 2 minus root of 3. Similarly, negative 2 here. And now you can cancel out this 2 and 2 from the numerator and denominator. Again, we don't want to show negative 1 as a denominator, so we can simply reverse the signs. We can say that this is the square root of 3 minus 2. And guys, this is the best answer, the best form of the answer. Although you had already achieved your goal here, that you had made the denominator as a rational number. But remember, whenever we have a fractional answer, it should be in the simplest form. Simplest form means, for example, if I give you 6x over 3, you have to do that cancellation, and any cancellation possible has to be done, and after that your final answer will be considered. Similarly here, if there is any cancellation of common factors, so first I factorize them and then I cancel the common factors, and once done with that, then is my final answer, and this is the most appropriate answer for this. So guys, today we learned about rationalization in this video. Rationalization is the process of getting rid of imaginary numbers or the incomplete squares or cube roots or any other root. You get rid of these complex numbers or root signs from the denominator and make it into a rational number. And we also learned about surds. That surds, it used to be another name for irrational numbers, but not anymore. It is now used for a root that is irrational. And we also learned what is a quadratic surd and then what's a conjugate surd. In fact, both of these are conjugate of each other. It's not like 5 minus under root 3 is the original surd and this is the conjugate surd. In fact, they both are conjugates of each other. And the reason is that the conjugate is surd will be the surd that gives you a rational answer as a result of multiplication. So if we were having 5 plus under root 3, 5 minus under root 3 would have been its conjugate. So guys, this is the whole summary that I have shared with you for rationalization. Should you wish to access this whole discussion on a single piece of paper or on a single image or a single canvas, this is all here. I can share it with you in the description. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Comment and feedback is very important for me. If you can provide your feedback of any concern, any error that I made in the video, please feel free to comment there and I'll definitely address those issues. If there is any other topic or any other problem that you want me to solve, Again, you can write it in the feedback section, in the comment section. Please share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. And please don't forget to hit the bell icon. Thank you.